Hey, welcome back to another episode on our new series, Pro Tips to Live a Dynamic Lifestyle. If you're new to this show, you definitely want to stay for this because we're dropping them every single day and we're giving you guys tips from literally experts and legit pro tips on how to live a dynamic lifestyle, especially in this pandemic and new circumstances and landscape that we're facing. So if you're interested, make sure to subscribe below. Other than that, get ready for this next one.
All right, Will Grazione in the house. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing well now that I got your gift in the mail.
Thanks, man.
So much. I appreciate it.
Really appreciate that. Like I said earlier before we started, I was always like kind of thinking, man, are these books going to make it to everybody? Like, you just never know with the shipping, but glad you got the book and appreciate all the kind words, man. And more importantly, I have to acknowledge before we get into this, man, like we've had a friendship for a while now and we've all kind of gotten into the fitness industry of online coaching like almost a decade ago. So I always say that you're a seasoned veteran.
I appreciate it.
But yeah, I appreciate you taking time, man, coming on this pro tip series on how to live a dynamic lifestyle and help people get through this pandemic and give them some light bulbs. So to kick this off, like how are you doing personally? I know you have a family and more importantly, what are some tips that you can give to some people that might be struggling and how can they reinvent themselves during these times?
Yeah. So I'll start off by saying that anybody who's going through a hardship right now, anybody who's maybe lost a family member, anybody who's had anything tragic happen near to their family, my thoughts and prayers go out to each and every one of you. On a lighter side of that, possibly make you guys laugh. I kind of like low key have been practicing social quarantine for the last five years. So it's not really that much different for me, I guess, in regards to I have an office, I have my house, family's at the house, I work at the office, and not much essentially has changed too much. But from a business perspective, things have definitely had to pivot, right? And I know that obviously one of our main questions was, what can we kind of do during this pandemic in order to kind of optimize ourselves, optimize our businesses to come out of this struggle better than we came into it, right? So if you guys, do you want to run straight into that question or?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, cool. So I know that when things are taken from us, we have a tendency to feel like we are emptied, right? It's like my job's taken, my kids' childcare is taken. I have 4 kids, guys, and I understand what it's like. Though we homeschool our kids and our families kind of created to be relatively self-sufficient, not needing a bunch of external things, I'm still empathetic because a lot of my clients have kids. They work full-time jobs. Salaries have been cut. Like people have lost jobs. 60 million people have lost jobs in the US. That's insane. So how can we actually do a perspective shift here? And how can we actually transition you from thinking that this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me to potentially being, this is the best thing that has ever happened to me? And I think it has a lot to do with just that perspective shift of not necessarily categorizing this as being a bad thing, but actually seeing the opportunity in this. Because the reality is that a lot of people, I mean, I could even talk, if this would have been me 8 years ago, I would have been on the other side. But where I am now, I have a different perspective. So it's the opportunity to make something of yourself during a time when the world is in chaos.
Right.
Okay. Now, how do we essentially do that? We first and foremost have to make sure that we are doing our best, regardless of what's happening outside in the world, on the news, on YouTube, on all the social media platforms. And all these things are distractions. Keep this in mind. All these things are distractions that could be distracting you from working on what you actually want to do for the rest of your life. So maybe the job that you worked at previously, maybe that job, you didn't like it. Maybe you didn't like your boss. Maybe you didn't like your coworkers. Maybe you got tired of clocking in, doing your 9 to 5 and not getting paid what you deserve. Well, this is a prime time right now because there's more eyes on social media right now. There's more eyes looking at us through a computer, a phone, whatever it is, that if you actually want to add value to the world, right now is the time to do it. So number one perspective shift is going to be, don't take this as a negative. Think about it as a massive opportunity to add value to the world. Okay. Now this can be done through any variety of ways. All I want you to think about is all the people that are out there right now. What do they look at for 4, 5, 6 hours a day? They're looking at their phone. So if we can create video content, we can create podcast content like this that they can listen to when they're driving in their cars. And keep in mind that stuff like this is very positive, right? And a lot of the information that's kind of shifting around in the world right now is very negative. And it's very easy for people's mindsets to get trapped into that negativity Whereas if they turn on a podcast like this, or they turn on something from Chris and Eric, they know they're going to get that daily dose of positivity, that daily dose of information that they can actually use as practical information to make those steps forward in their lives to ultimately come out better than they went in. So I would say that's the first perspective shift, is simply that.
Yeah,
Oof, absolutely, man.
good
I mean,
stuff.
that was a loaded answer, which is really, really great. And I like how you're saying, just kind of like, look at this as a massive opportunity. And you're a perfect example of that, because we were just talking before we hit the record button that you're working on your new brand and your new business, you know? So this is a definite time somebody can be doing that. What would you say though, Will, is like maybe the biggest kind of like opportunity that you're kind of capitalizing on right now, the past 6 weeks?
Man, products, you know, creating products. You know, during a time when, and this is a huge deal, but you guys can feel that the heartbeat of the world is slower now.
Yep.
Okay. More people are on these things, and more people are looking for information because they can't necessarily go outside their houses. So I guess in my opinion, the biggest thing is just making sure that you can create something that's going to be everlasting. So as an example, I've been working on a couple ebooks for a while now. And the first one that was going to be going out was a nutrition ebook. Well, guess what? We pivoted because I started to do some band stuff. We started to get a lot more engagement as far as workouts with very minimalistic equipment. So I created the Minimalistic Muscle Manual, which is the M3 trainer. And all you need is pretty much a pipe and some bands. And we just launched that. You know, it did pretty well. And a lot of people are actually using that in the safety of their own homes. So we essentially had to pivot, you know, and I think that it also, I guess, as a husband and as a father, it allowed me to feel that I wasn't being with my family enough, because it made the world slow down, right?
Yep.
I'm sure that you guys have probably noticed this as well, is that husbands and fathers are spending more time with their kids and their wives now than they ever have.
Oh yeah.
It's because the world forced everybody to slow down. So in that regard, as far as like the impact that you know, husband or wife can have on the family, that's been great. So I really hope and pray that things like that actually stick, and that once the floodgates kind of open back up and we're allowed to go back to working the way that we were, or traveling the way that we were, people don't forget or lose sight of what was most important.
Absolutely.
Which is, you know,
Are you a fitness professional looking to create more income, impact, influence, and independence? If so, we actually just dropped our new book, Rise of the Fit Pros, so you guys can be on your way to doing all those things, and you can sit there and build your hybrid training model. So if you're interested in getting your copy, make sure to click the book or the link right here, and you guys can grab it. Other than that, make sure to enjoy the rest of the show.
you know, your loved ones and your families.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I want to go back to like what you were saying too, that like just looking for the opportunity to build something like long lasting, like bulletproof, like per se, right? Because I was listening to this podcast with Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he was saying that the industrial age is pretty much, it's diminishing, it's dying out, and we're entering the information age. So just like you're doing, man, like you're making a product like that, that's what other people like listening to this could be doing, is making something like that that's information wise.
100%. And I think, you know, if the people listening to this have any sort of following, or even if they don't have a following, even if they don't have like an influence on social media or anything, just ask around, like, what could I do? What is there that I could do to help you right now? Like, is the limitation on food sources, is that a big issue with you not being able to buy more than like one pack of protein at the grocery store? Just try to find a hole and try to fill the hole. Like, it's not that challenging. You just have to have open ears and pay attention to people. When you pay attention to people, you can then solve individuals' problems.
Exactly. Absolutely. All right, Will. So let's say that this pandemic, let's say your business wasn't built for like this pandemic, you know, which it is, which is awesome. But like, let's say that this wiped you out and you're starting from ground zero and you have all the knowledge from like the past decade. What kind of steps would you do to build this back up? And my hope is to give whoever's listening to this some confidence and some momentum and hope, you know?
Man, you know, obviously having over 10 years of experience, I've failed a lot and I've learned a lot of very valuable lessons. The first thing that I would potentially do is just make sure that fear did not make any of my decisions moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
I did not allow fear to predicate what I put out on social media, what content I make, what clients I work with, what limitations I may have felt that things I just couldn't do because I was scared to do them. First and foremost, I would put my faith over any fear. As a foundational concept, that's really all you would need. Now, from that point, it's like strategy. How do we actually strategize? And if you don't have clients, you have all the ability in the world to produce massive content. Now, I think that Instagram right now is probably the biggest lead generation tool that we probably have, unless you've been somebody who's invested like a solid year or two into YouTube and you've grown your channel up. Then in that case, that's like your primary, right? But I would go really hard on Instagram. I would go hard on YouTube. I would share my thoughts. I would network. I would probably join a mastermind or something like that. And again, finances can be a limiting factor for a lot of people. Keep in mind that when this pandemic kind of comes to an end, 60 million people have lost their jobs. And banks are going to be trying to give money away, okay? So if you guys think about how much did it cost us to start our businesses?
Not very much.
Not much at all.
I just needed a computer,
Yeah.
right? Once I had my computer, now I had access to the entire world. So I don't necessarily think anybody has to take out a massive loan or anything, but as long as you have like technological devices, I mean, you can do everything from your phone that you could do on your computer.
Yep.
So as long as you have an iPhone, you don't need everything, super high tech, fancy, all that. But the three main platforms, I'd say Instagram, YouTube, podcast. I would start those immediately.
Yep.
Reaching out to like my dream team. Who are my top 20 people that I would want to get either on video or on podcast? And I would make sure that I scheduled something using either a Calendly or something similar to the app that you guys use. I think it's called Schedule Once or something like that. Link them, get them all in there, put them all in Google Calendar. That way, you're not allowing the world to dictate what you do, but you're actually being proactive with your tasks every day. And when you start to learn how to become proactive in your tasks every day and actually map your days out, everybody listening to this will be astonished at how much they get done.
Yep.
There are a lot of people right now who they think, oh man, if I do 2 podcasts a week, like that's a ton. Like, man, you guys have probably interviewed 10 to 15 people in a day before. You know what I mean? Like, think about how that efficiency and the automation of the back end can help us out. So starting from ground zero, have faith. Don't let fear dictate your decisions. Don't let money be the deciding factor that ultimately makes your decisions moving forward. Nothing needs to be perfect. It just needs to go out, solve people's problems, network, and film things. That would be my top 5.
Man,
holy shit.
My Lord. Fist bump, Will.
That was good, man. That was great. Just really quick, I love how you set the tone with faith and not letting fear dictate things, because that's really where people are at right now. A lot of us are in fear, and that will, cause paralysis by overanalysis. Right. And the whole momentum's so underrated. I even talked about this yesterday, that once you gain traction, once you gain momentum, you'd be really surprised how much you could really get done and chip away at. So, yeah.
I have literally worn this every day since the pandemic happened.
Love that. That's awesome.
Every day.
Love it.
That's so powerful.
Love it. So kind of just to wrap this up, Will, I've been asking all the guests this question, and I just like to get people's perspective. So like, what do you think the big message from the world is? And you said this earlier about slowing down. So maybe this is your answer, but what do you think the big message is from like the universe for humanity and society?
Yeah. So I've thought about this a lot, and I really feel like this is kind of the Lord's way or God's way of getting us all to refocus on what's the most important in our lives. I feel like a lot of people that may be like us, entrepreneurial types, or just go-getter types of individuals. Now I'm going to address this in 2 different ways. So the go-getter type of individual will work so hard that they forget about things that aren't work. Right. And for us, we have to remember what drives us, what fuels us. For me, it's my kids and my wife, and I have to remember that. So even if work is booming, things are going well, finances are coming in, I'm serving people, clients are achieving great results, I still have to be able to clock out and say, hey, babe, Friday we have our date night. Yep. You know what I mean? And Sunday, that's my time for my kids. On the other side of that, I think that this is the Lord's way of saying you should live happy. You shouldn't have to work a job that you hate 9 to 5 every single day. You probably don't get paid enough for your services. you know, and you're living a miserable life. You're living a reactive life. You have allowed the world to create your life for you. So therefore, if you've allowed the world to create the life for you, how can you be happy?
Yeah.
Other people are deciding what you're doing. So I also think that people's desire to achieve wealth or to achieve financial freedom or to have things has limited their ability to self-educate themselves. So what more do you need than to be phenomenal or be able to self-educate than time?
Yep.
So that's 3 different scenarios, 3 different perspectives. And I just hope each person that's in each one of those actually understands the purpose of why this happened.
Yeah.
Well
Said.
What a way to end it, man. So what can we do right now, even the listeners, to support you? Will, anything you're working on, and how can we connect with you?
Yeah, so probably the best way to connect with me is just through email. It's william@theeducatedDieter.com. My YouTube channel, William Grazione. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Pretty much try to be all over the place. I have a at-home workout program out right now called the M3 Trainer, which is free for download, completely free. I didn't charge anybody anything for this because, again, people had so much taken away from them at this moment in time that I just wanted to be somebody who could give back.
Yeah.
So it's about a 32-page PDF file filled with content. And, you know, if anybody's interested in, I guess, elevating their at-home workouts, I would recommend you download it.
Sounds good. We'll definitely have all that linked up in the show notes. So guys, go follow Will. And Will, I want to just say thank you so much again for your time on this. And man, you've always been a giver, which I've always loved, man, about you. And just, you've always put the faith in over the fear and everything like that. I've always really respected that, admired that. So just thank you so much, man. And just like, I see how much you've grown this past decade too, just like everything. So keep it up, man. You're making a huge difference, and I respect the hell out of you, man.
I appreciate you guys for everything that you guys are doing. You know, I mean, having the power to, you know, take a client who may be relatively limited in what they can achieve, and then you guys help them grow their future or grow their dream. That's absolutely fantastic. And I've obviously paid very close attention to you guys over the last decade as well. I appreciate you guys for all the value you add into our space. And thank you so much.
Right. Thanks, Will. Thank you so much, man. All right, guys, until next time.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this video and another episode on pro tips on living a dynamic lifestyle. We really appreciate it. Hope you got a lot of value out of it. If you're interested in getting more value like this from these pro tips, make sure to subscribe above. We're going to be dropping these daily. Also, if you are a fitness professional and you're looking to create more income, impact, influence, and independence, we just dropped our new book, Rise of the Fit Pros, so you guys can do all of that. And you can also start building your hybrid training model with in-person and online training. So make sure to click the link or the book right here to grab your guys' copy, and we'll send it over to you. Other than that, we're out. Talk to you soon.